Hey, yo, 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 yo. This is Mr. G talking about inequalities. So we're just going to work on one-step inequalities right now. We're going to talk about just what an inequality is and how we use it and what they mean, and then we'll actually get into more about solving them with the next video, which is part 2. So the first thing you need to know is this key term of inequalities is what it is. It's a relationship between quantities that are not equivalent. So this is when we're not going to, so when we've been solving equations, we've been saying x is equal to 3 or something is equal to another thing. So inequalities is when they're not equivalent necessarily. They might be less than or greater than. They might be or equal to as well. They might be less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. But we're talking about things that aren't necessarily equal. There might be less than or greater than a certain value. So these are the symbols we use in inequalities. So we have our less than symbol. I'm going to try to make this a little bit bigger. There we go. So we have our less than symbol right here. So one thing we like to talk about is that inequalities are like an alligator mouth. So this is the mouth. Here's the opening of the mouth over here. Okay. And if I were to read this from left to right, let's say I said x is less than 3. This would read at x is less than 3, which means that this value has to be any value that is not bigger than 3, that is less than 3. And another way we know that is the alligator mouth. This is the opening of the mouth. It is going to eat the 3 because alligators always want to eat the most amount of food they can, so they're always going to eat the bigger number. So the opening is always facing the number that's going to be greater. So x can be any value less than 3, so it could be -1, could be 0, could be 1, could be 2, could be 2.5, could be -1,170. Doesn't matter. Now, it's just got to be less than. This is the opposite, which is greater than. So now, if I flip the alligator mouth, that's saying it's bigger than, because now the alligator is facing the x. So this would be x is greater than 5. So now the opening of the mouth is towards the x, which means it wants to eat the most food it can eat, and then that means this number has got to be the highest value or the most, so that's why it's facing that number. So x is greater than 5 is just saying, hey, this number x is greater than any number that's greater than 5, so there's infinite possibilities. Now talking over here, if you have the or equal to, that's when we put a line underneath it. So that means, and that's for less than and greater than. That means it's or equal to. So that just means that it could be, so if we're going back to this example right here, for x is greater than 5, if I put the or equal to, that means x can also be 5. So if x is greater than or equal to 5, that means 5 is a possible number and anything greater than. If I just had x is greater than 5, that means 5 would not be a solution here, because 5 is not bigger than 5. 5 is equal to 5. So that line underneath means or equal to. So what we are going to do is we are going to just work on graphing these and understanding what these mean and what it looks like. So if I had a number that was like this first one right here, that says y is less than or equal to -3. I want to show what that means on the number line. So I'm going to find -3 on a number line. So if y is less than or equal to -3, I'm going to put a circle here, a dot right above -3 on my number line. Y is less than or equal to -3. So that means this, whatever y, all the possible values for y are every single number that's less than or smaller than -3. So if I'm looking at a number line, if I go to the right here, all these values are bigger than -3. So y is less than. So everything to the left over here is less than -3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line with an arrow right above my number line that represents all the possibilities for y. All the possible numbers that y could be are, it could be -3, which is why I have a closed circle here on -3. And then y could also be any of these values that is less than -3, because -10 is -3. This is -3, -8 is -3. Everything in between is also less than -3. So everything to the left of -3 on the number line would be a solution. So this graph right here is my solution. That's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to graph these at first. You're going to have to show what is the solution, or what does y less than -3, what y is less than or equal to -3 represent. So whenever we have the or equal to, that's when we use the closed circle. But for this one right here, I don't have the or equal to. So this is m is the larger number. Now I know we have the variable on the right hand side, and that's okay. M is the larger number because the alligator mouth is opening up towards the M. So what that means is 1 is less than M, or I could go read it backwards, because this is really the same thing as this. The alligator mouth is still facing M. M is greater than 1. So M is the larger number because the alligator is going to eat the larger number. So M is greater than 1. So because it doesn't have an or equal to symbol, though, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an open circle on 1. I'm putting a hole there. The reason why is if I wanted to show all the possible values that represent M, I'm saying M can be any number that's bigger than 1, but it can't be 1. So because it can't be 1, I'm putting an open circle here, because that's a hole. They're saying that this is not part of the solution. But everything to the right is. And the reason why everything to the right is all the values to the right of 1 are bigger than 1. So this is saying that M's the larger of the two numbers. M's got to be larger than 1. So therefore M can be any of these because all of these numbers are larger than 1. But no, 1 is not greater than 1. 1 is equal to 1. That's why I have an open circle and I'm putting a hole there. Where with the or equal to symbol, I put a closed circle because that's including 3 as well. That's why we fill it in. Try this last one on your own. See if you graph the last one. So pause and try graphing this last one on your own. Okay, so I got t is less than -4. So because there's no or equal to, I'm going to put an open circle right above the -4. And then we're saying it's less than. T is the smaller of the numbers because the alligator is facing the -4. So less than means we go left because everything in the number line is smaller on the left-hand side. Less than is always to the left of the number line. So there is my graph for t is less than -4. And this shows me all my possible values for t. We draw this arrow because this goes on forever. That's why we draw the arrow, so that's going to continue on. It's not just these values. It doesn't just stop and get a 10. It continues to go. And that's it. Now sometimes you'll have to show the possibilities by representing a word problem. So you might be given a word problem. You have to show what the possible solutions are on a graph for that word problem. So to test the temperature rating of a coat, a scientist keeps the temperature below 5 degrees Celsius. Write and graph an inequality to represent the situation. So I want to say, write and graph a temperature that is below 5 degrees Celsius. So, well, if it's below 5 degrees Celsius, that means it would be less than 5. Because everything less than 5 is below 5 degrees Celsius. So now, I can put my open circle at 5, because it's less than, it's not or equal to. So they're saying it has to be below 5, and then I can graph it all the way to the left. Because every number to the left is a possible temperature that could be, because it's anything below 5 degrees. Each package must weigh more than 2 ounces. Write the inequality, graph it on your own. So hit pause, write the inequality, graph it on your own, see how you do. Each package must weigh more than 2 ounces. So for each package, I'll just use P, doesn't really matter. Must weigh more than 2 ounces. So the package itself must weigh more than 2 ounces. So the package has got to be greater than 2 ounces. So that's why the alligator mouth is opening up towards the package, because this has to be the most. So P is greater than, the package is greater than 2. So open circle over 2, greater than is always to the right. And I'm done. Okay, so for things to remember, I would actually put less than or greater than equals an open circle. So you can even, instead of actually putting the open circle, because that might look like a 0, put open circle, and then maybe show an example of that. And also put less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, even closed circle. And maybe we'll have an example of that. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know. Get the independent practice done. That's all I got for you. Gradius out.